70-year-old Rosa had spent her entire life perfecting her grandmother's traditional recipes. Born in Sicily and immigrating to America at age 20, she had brought with her culinary traditions passed down through generations. Her restaurant, Nana's Kitchen, had been a neighborhood institution for 40 years. However, times were changing. The neighborhood was gentrifying, rents were increasing, and younger residents preferred trendy fusion restaurants over traditional Italian cooking. Rosa's customer base was aging, and she struggled to attract new patrons. Her children encouraged her to retire and close the restaurant. "Mama, you've worked hard enough," her daughter Angela said gently. "You're 70 years old. It's time to rest. We can't keep subsidizing the restaurant's losses." Rosa felt heartbroken. The restaurant wasn't just a business, it was her legacy, her connection to her heritage, her life's work. But she also understood the financial reality. Without her children's financial help, she couldn't afford the increased rent. One afternoon, a young food blogger named Marcus visited the restaurant. He had read old reviews praising Nana's Kitchen and wanted to experience it himself. Rosa served him her signature dish, handmade ravioli with her grandmother's secret sauce recipe. Marcus was amazed by the food. "This is incredible," he told Rosa. "It's authentic in a way you rarely find anymore. Most Italian restaurants serve Americanized versions. This tastes like actual Italy." Rosa smiled, pleased by the compliment. They began talking and she shared stories about learning to cook from her grandmother, the journey from Sicily, and building the restaurant from nothing. Marcus listened, fascinated. "Would you mind if I wrote about this?" Marcus asked. "I think people would love to know your story and this food." Rosa agreed, though she was skeptical that a blog post would make much difference. However, Marcus's article went viral. He had written movingly about Rosa's story, the authenticity of her cooking, and the importance of preserving culinary traditions. The post was shared thousands of times on social media. Within days, the restaurant was flooded with new customers, young people who had read the article and wanted to experience real Italian food. Lines formed outside during dinner hours. Rosa was overwhelmed but also thrilled. The restaurant she had thought was dying suddenly had new life. However, the sudden popularity created challenges. Rosa couldn't keep up with demand. She was exhausted from working longer hours. The quality of food sometimes suffered when she rushed. She needed help but couldn't afford to hire staff given the restaurant's previous financial struggles. Angela saw her mother's stress and made a proposal. "Mama, what if we adapted? You keep the traditional recipes but also modernize the business. Update the menu format, improve the ambience, hire help, maybe offer cooking classes teaching your techniques. Make it sustainable." Rosa initially resisted. "This restaurant has been the same for 40 years. Why change what works?" "Because what worked 40 years ago isn't working now," Angela replied gently. "The food can stay traditional, but the business model needs to evolve. Otherwise, you'll work yourself to death or go bankrupt despite the new attention." Reluctantly, Rosa agreed to try. Angela helped redesign the restaurant's interior, keeping its cozy, authentic feel but updating worn furniture and improving lighting. They created a cleaner, more modern menu while keeping all of Rosa's traditional dishes. They hired 2 assistants whom Rosa trained in her techniques. The transformation was difficult for Rosa. She had always done everything herself, and delegating felt like losing control. Watching her assistants make ravioli, even though she had trained them, made her anxious. "They're not doing it exactly right," she would complain to Angela. "Mama, they're doing it 90% right," Angela replied. "That's good enough. You can't do everything perfectly yourself anymore. Either you accept help, or you'll destroy your health trying to maintain impossible standards." Rosa also struggled with the cooking classes Angela organized. Teaching strangers her family's secret recipes felt like betrayal. These recipes had been passed down through generations, meant for family, not strangers willing to pay for a 2-hour class. "I'm sharing our family's soul," Rosa protested. "No, you're preserving it," Angela countered. "When you die, if you haven't taught anyone else these recipes, they die with you. By teaching others, you're ensuring the tradition continues. That's not betrayal, it's legacy." That perspective shifted something for Rosa. She realized Angela was right. Her grandmother had taught her because she wanted the traditions to continue. Rosa was simply extending that chain to the next generation, even if that generation wasn't biologically family. The cooking classes became popular. Students came from across the city to learn from Rosa. Many were young people interested in traditional cooking techniques. Others were elderly individuals wanting to reconnect with their Italian heritage. Rosa found joy in teaching, sharing not just recipes but stories about where they came from and what they meant. One student, a young woman named Jennifer, came every week. She had Italian ancestry but had grown up disconnected from that culture. Learning from Rosa helped her understand her heritage. "My grandmother passed away before teaching me her recipes," Jennifer told Rosa tearfully. "Learning from you feels like reconnecting with her." Rosa was deeply moved. She realized her resistance to change had been about fear, fear of losing control, fear of traditions being corrupted, fear of becoming irrelevant. But by clinging too tightly to the past, she had been endangering the very traditions she wanted to protect. 2 years after Marcus's article, Nana's Kitchen was thriving. The restaurant had expanded slightly, offering both dine-in and takeout. Rosa still cooked but had trained a small team who could maintain her standards. The cooking classes were booked months in advance. Rosa had even written a cookbook, sharing her family recipes with stories about each dish's history. Most significantly, Rosa had rebuilt her relationship with her heritage. She had initially seen tradition and change as opposites. You either preserved the past exactly as it was, or you betrayed it. Now she understood that real preservation required adaptation. Traditions stayed alive by evolving to remain relevant to new generations. Angela had been right. The food stayed traditional, but the business model had modernized. Rosa served the same ravioli her grandmother had taught her to make, but now it reached people who might never have discovered it otherwise. On the restaurant's 42nd anniversary, Rosa held a special celebration. The restaurant was packed with regular customers, former students, and Rosa's extended family. Marcus was there too, having become a friend over the years. Rosa gave a short speech, thanking everyone for keeping the restaurant alive. "When I immigrated to America 50 years ago, I brought my grandmother's recipes because I didn't want to forget where I came from. This restaurant was my way of holding onto Sicily, but I've learned that holding on too tightly can kill what you're trying to preserve." She paused, looking around at the diverse crowd, young and old, Italian and not, longtime residents and newcomers. Real tradition isn't about keeping things exactly the same. It's about understanding why those things mattered and finding ways to keep that meaning alive for new contexts. My grandmother's recipes matter not because they're old, but because they're delicious, made with love, and connect us to something larger than ourselves. As long as we remember that, the tradition lives. After the speech, Rosa returned to the kitchen, her domain, her joy, her life's work. She was 72 now, still working but with help, still cooking but with students who would carry on her techniques. She had learned that legacy wasn't about preventing change. It was about shaping change in ways that honored the past while embracing the future.